I think this town is doomed, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I think it's doomed.
Manville, asbestos.
Asbestos used to fly in the sky.
We didn't know what it was doing to us.
People were starting to drop like flies.
We didn't find out till later that, you can get killed from it.
It was a blight on our town that still to this day people remember and know.
The flooding that the town has encountered over time has significantly worsened.
The floods and the threats of floods and getting worse and worse all the time.
No town in our region was hit harder than Manville, a blue-collar town on the Raritan River. The Raritan and Millstone rivers flooded on both sides of the small town, and for over a day, Manville was an island cut off and inaccessible by road.
We're famous for bad things, for wrong things, for floods, for misery. We don't want that. We need help for these people.
There has been no focus on stormwater mitigation between the Raritan River, the Millstone River, and the Royce Brook that originates in Hillsborough. All that water comes to us.
People couldn't get in and out. And maybe they can do some new structure work with the roads, or hopefully barriers that can stop something like this.
Well, it was quite devastating to see the effects of 11 inches of rainfall in a very short period of time. It was classified as a 1,000-year event, and we had some gas explosions. Homes blew up, and a business blew up on our main street.
Small businesses that have been basically just shut out.
Stop building, people, okay? We have enough. How many mini malls do we need?
Maybe stop building so many luxury apartments. We don't need any more of those. I don't know anybody who could afford any of those.
Manville, New Jersey, I would say about half of the town is now underwater.
The more tar, the more water flows off. I don't care how many trenches they dig to say they're going to redeem it, remediate it. It's not going to happen.
September 2nd of last year, besides losing my mother, was the worst day of my life.
President Biden visited Manville along with Governor Murphy the week after the storm. But now Manville's mayor says that broken promises have left the town as forgotten and cut off as it was in the day after Ida struck.
And I'm still with no home. I live from here to there in a bag. I have contacted everyone. FEMA, if there's somebody here from FEMA. Right, I thought so, because I'm not the only one.
If it's up to them, they don't care. Like they said, the President Biden came here. Okay, he came here, had a tour. What the hell did he do?
I'm a little frustrated in the response time of the federal government in terms of getting people help. It's been tough telling my residents with busted foundations who have evacuated or abandoned their homes to continue to pay their property taxes or mortgage payments as they sit and wait a year later to get help.
What I need is help. I've begged for help. I'm begging on my knees for help. I don't have a home anymore. I don't have my things. And I don't feel like a person anymore.
We had 2 feet of water throughout our borough hall, And it's very difficult to recover from a disaster emergency when your borough hall goes underwater.
We are currently sitting in the Borough Hall council chambers. It doesn't look much like a council chambers right now, though. Our entire first floor of Borough Hall, including our front offices, our mayor's office, the downstairs bathrooms, the tax office, the borough administrator's office, and where we are right now, the council chambers, all were flooded. And so this room typically has walls, and where I'm sitting right now is typically rows of chairs where members of the public would sit as they look that direction towards the dais, which is where all of the members of council and the mayor sit for our regular meetings.
My name's Anthony Daniello. I'm proud second generation owner of Manville Pizza. My family immigrated from a town in the province of Naples, right outside, called Monte di Procida, and came to the United States. My father, Vinny, started Manville Pizza in 1969, put his head down and worked ever since. Started in Brooklyn, and then eventually made his way to Manville.
Well, it started off with the idea of lessons, basic lessons for people who were afraid to use a computer because they didn't want to break it. And so when I went to school and I learned more about computers, got my GED, then I went to DeVry, found out that there was no such thing as electronic repair. So that's where I got into computers. And it's been pretty tough going, getting it started. But I had to work for other people while my kids were younger and still do the business. 5 years ago, I got the opportunity to open up this shop.
I came to Manville when I was 6 months old. My parents are immigrants from Poland, so I'm a Manvilleite, I guess. So I grew up with that traditional life of a Polish girl, knowing what a business life was like. Went to cosmetology school, worked in a little beauty parlor in Manville for a while, and then my grandmother said, it's time you go out on your own. So at the age of 24, I opened this business in 1983. I started my business because my grandmother said, you can do it. And so the women in our family are very business-minded.
We have something that the bigger communities don't have. We're walkable. You can, in 10 minutes, you could walk to any place you want to go, a park, shopping, movies. We have that walkability of a small hometown, and people like that.
There are not many towns in the United States, let alone New Jersey, that can say that they are a walkable town. And what I mean by a walkable town is that, in theory, you can get from any home in this borough to a grocery store, to a library, to a park, to a pool, to a school, to a job without having a car.
Back in the 50s and 60s, when I grew up here, I walked to school. You can continue to do that today. We're a fully expanded borough. We can't grow anymore. We're 2 square miles. We are what we are in that regard. And the tight-knit nature of the community is what people really, what I sense people like and what they want to experience by living here.
We're in the center of everything, we're not overcrowded, which is a nice thing. It's peaceful. You want to have a picnic? We have a place for it. We pick one of our parks.
I think that it is a lost principle of community building that needs to be reclaimed. Because when you live in a town that you can truly do all of those things, what it means is that you can have genuine relationships with people who live all over your town, and you can walk the journey of life with those people. And so much of the American project in the last 50 years has been focused on cars. And I think that Manville is one of these hidden gems that shows what it's like, what actually happens when you can use your own 2 feet. Even if you choose not to, you can use your own 2 feet to get wherever you need to go. You bump into the same people over and over again. What you end up getting is a town that learns to love each other in ways that other towns just never experience naturally. Manville is situated at the point in which the Millstone River joins the Raritan River. So the Millstone River is on the eastern side of Manville, running northward. And the Raritan River goes from west to east. It's headed towards the Atlantic. And so the northeastern point of town is where those two rivers meet. Now, a couple of things have happened over the last 50 years, 50 to 60 years, really. The first is that Bridgewater, Hillsborough, sort of everyone to the north, west, and south of us have developed, reasonably so. The problem is that concrete is not very good at soaking up water. The ground is really good at soaking up water. Concrete is not. And so as more and more of ground cover, dirt, Mother Nature's suction machine is replaced by concrete, the water doesn't have anywhere to go down. The water goes over. And where does it go over? It goes over more so into the river. So our rivers are actually getting more runoff than they did even 60 years ago.
We have constant flooding. It may happen every 10 years, but when it does, it's catastrophic to the town.
They're building like crazy. But when they build a retention pond, they fill up with water. So they're not retention ponds, they're ponds. They're loaded with fish, ducks, geese, whatever. The water doesn't go down.
There's many issues in our town that need to be addressed, but that should be the forefront, because without that, we possibly won't have a town one day.
All these projects that they got going are right along these little creeks. And then they flood into the bigger brooks, and then the brooks feed into the river.
Overflowing.
And all the water comes in here.
Comes in here. That's problem number one, more runoff. Problem number two is about 30 years ago, there was a project called the Greenbrook Flood Commission. And what they did is they discussed flood walls on a number of the towns that border the rivers. And the Army Corps of Engineers came in and they looked at Manville and they looked at how much we would need, how many square miles of flood wall we would need to sort of protect sections of Manville that end up flooding. And the Army Corps of Engineers looked at the numbers and they have a formula that says how much money are we protecting in the town and how much money will it cost to build this amount of flood wall. And if the two numbers don't meet their ratio, the answer is no. And the answer was no. Bound Brook, our neighbor town just to the northeast, which also borders the Raritan River, they got some flood walls because the Army Corps of Engineers decided that in their estimation, the number of dollars of property worth that would be saved and protected by flood walls was greater than their formula indicated. And so Bound Brook got flood walls and Manville didn't. And what that means is that anytime Bound Brook closes their flood walls, once again, we have concrete and water bounces against concrete. And where does it bounce to? It bounces to Manville.
The flooding that the town has encountered over time has significantly worsened. So the first flood event that was a major event that hit Manville was in 1955. We had 2 hurricanes within the same week in August of that year. 1971, we had another hurricane, Hurricane Doria. 1999, we had Hurricane Floyd. 2011, we had Hurricane Irene, and now we had Hurricane Ida in 2021. So those hurricanes were the major events that have significantly flooded our town. And over time, you could see, by living here my whole life, and with the amount of upstream development that has gone into the watershed, you could see the rivers react differently in terms of how fast they come up and the water levels that we've encountered through those storms have increased. So in 1971, under Hurricane Doria, we had about the same amount of rainfall that we had under Ida. And the height on my old street was about double what it was in 1971. So the state of New Jersey had very poor stormwater management rules over the decades. They allowed everyone just to pump the stormwater off the roofs into the river. And we're paying the price for that today.
I've been living in this town since I'm 6 years old. And when I was younger, we never had floods here. But with all the construction in surrounding area of Hillsborough and Montgomery and Bridgewater, we have floods here quite often. But this past flood that we just had was the worst flood we ever had here in this town.
And so over time, what the end of this story, unfortunately, is that floods 80 years ago, they were not great, but they certainly weren't as devastating as they are now, because we've got more runoff. We have floodgates that don't belong to us that push water towards us, and not much to do about it. And so when we get water, the water is higher and the water is scarier.
I woke up in the morning at 4:30, my alarm clock goes off. My fiance goes, "You're not going anywhere." And I'm like, "Why?" She was like, "The flood alarms went off." She was like, "Town's pretty much flooded, you're isolated, you're landlocked, you're not going anywhere."
Being a resident of Manville, the next morning I woke up to Manville completely underwater. Now, where I live in the town is on high ground, but all around my neighborhood, it was just completely submerged. I could not believe it. I had never seen anything like that in my life. And we went down to look at how bad it was. And my neighbor, John, was there. And we were talking about how there were no rescue boats.
I looked at my neighbor, Joe, and I was like, "I got a boat. See what we can do with it. If we get permission, we can take it out."
You know, maybe we could try getting the boat in the water. We figured we would do whatever we could to help.
What the hell are they doing?
On the stay there! I didn't want to run my gas motor because I didn't want to hit some obstruction underneath the water, and then it would have left me high and dry. So I used my trolling motor to get up and down the roads, the side streets. We actually went right across the top of, I think it was either a street sign or a stop sign, I can't remember. I just looked down in the water and I seen a sign in the water. I'm like, we just went over a sign. We were able to read actually depths at the bottom of Kennedy and South Main Street of 16.9 foot of water at the train trestle.
Okay, so right now we're heading north on Main Street, and the water is already deeper than it was during Irene in 2011. And we just helped a whole bunch of people and dogs, and we're going back for more.
So then we started heading north on Main Street, and we got by the car wash, and we ended up on seeing people on top of the rooftop. I think there was 4 or 5 people on top, and I believe they had 2 or 3 dogs that we ended up on getting the people off and the pets as well. The most I could probably take on my boat at a time would be 6 people comfortably without sinking the boat or putting any of other lives in danger. So I would only be able to get 3 other people on the boat, pick them up, drop them off, and then go back and pick other people up, drop them off. I never seen water of that depth on a main street in a town. Even on television, I never seen anything like it.
You know, you go out here when they're doing those rescues, there's shrieks of horror, you know, going on. There's infants being, you know, in driving rain being held, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I spoke with a lot of these adjusters that were all over the United States for Ida, and they were in Louisiana, and they were doing their job working up the path of Ida. And they said that as far as flood related, Manville is by far the worst hit in the whole entire track.
As they were walking through the water was about waist deep in our front yard. As they were walking through the water to evacuate, my 13-year-old daughter who is on the autism spectrum and doesn't know how to swim. She fell into the water and she told me that she thought she was going to die. And it traumatized her. My child hasn't been the same since.
And you can see one house there has been leveled by a fire, and underneath those trees there is a second house. You can see the smoke coming out from those trees that is also on fire, and you can see the streets around it. Unfortunately, there's nothing they can do to get to that house.
It wasn't until the afternoon that Manville got assistance from surrounding towns.
I think the main reason why they weren't able to get there is because all the roads are flooded. They had no access points coming in or getting out of town. So pretty much the people that lived in town were the only people that can go out and save people and doing, whatever they could do, especially for people that, they had no idea when help was coming. And I took it out of my own ability to, hey, I have a boat, the water looks deep enough. If it won't work, it's not gonna work. If it's gonna work, I'm gonna make it happen.
And those houses were filled by unsuspecting, unknowing, or somebody that didn't really think the floods were gonna happen again. And they're coming out with a bag full of things of their life that were the most important things in their life, is in a plastic Walmart bag that's ripped. And they're walking out of this flood, they're soaking wet. And they don't know what's going on. They're on an island now, and there's one place that's open. That one place is Manville Pizza. And we have to, it's a duty for us. We feel as if it's a duty to open and to maintain that one sense of normalcy, that one little piece of normalcy that in the middle of this war zone that's going on, and literally this last flood was a war zone because there was explosions too, to add to the drama. So you have the trauma, and it truly is traumatic, and I see it, and I'm affected by it too. And we give out a lot, and it's a true sense of honor to me to be in a position to do that. It's humbling, to be honest with you.
When we went back out in the afternoon, we were heading up the side street, South 5th, and working our way back up North Main Street. And we finally came across the fire department. They had their dinghies out. I feel bad for them guys because them guys were wading through the water and pulling the boat along. And pretty much I was taking their people that they were rescuing, throwing them in my boat, taking them to safety while they were still able to go out and search and try to help people out. So, I was happy they were able to finally make it out and other people were able to join the rescue group.
We had many outside organizations for water rescue and ambulance coverage that came from faraway towns.
It was a little scary because when the boats start coming, it's bad. Because normally I've stayed here, but this time, no. The water just rushed in, and this was actually my third flood here. And this was the worst. And they had no way to tell us ahead of time, which they normally do.
The alarms, they came in a little late. We have a little bit of an outdated alarm system. And basically we went into action. We all know, we've been through this before if you're born and raised in Manville, and everybody just rolls up their sleeves in this town, no matter who you are or what you are, and they get to work for the people.
About 6 o'clock, the woman that was downstairs was banging on the door and the wall saying, "We've got a problem." And when I opened the door, she goes, "There's water coming in." So I grabbed the dog, put my shoes on and went down, and the water was coming in and it was already to the first floor.
Up by Dunkin' Donuts, you had 12 foot of water at that intersection. Down here at the end of town, you had 16.9 feet of water. Going down the side streets, you had anywhere between 7 to 5 foot of water. So it's a lot of water ended up in people's homes.
We tried to grab what we could from down there and put it upstairs, but we couldn't save much of anything. So, they were saying that this was the worst one that's been in Manville. And there seemed to be quite a few boats around of people leaving, where in the past, you were able to walk out. This time you could not.
And then I was fortunate enough to help those people, get them to safety. get them to the fire department, the rescue squad, and the police department so they can get them in the shelters. Go ahead, slide right down.
Slow slide there.
Slow slide.
There we go.
I got you.
He's got you. You're good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
People wanted to go, but then a lot of people didn't want to go. I mean, we went past houses where music was cranking, and it's like, they having a party?
Oh, they're partying. They're having a flood party. All right. No, we're good, thank you. What, is this recreation?
Great opportunity for a boat nearby. Morning.
People are on top of the rooftops in like bikinis and no shirts on with a towel. It's like they're sunbathing. It's like, what are these people doing? You're in like a natural disaster and everybody's like having a great time, and it's like, you need to get out.
You okay? We're just helping people. Manville's an island right now.
We came across a older gentleman. He, it was tight getting into his backyard. He had like a railing. He had debris all over the yard. He had hedges.
Did you get your water? No. All right, I got some water.
And all of a sudden I look down off the bed and I see this stream of water going through my bedroom.
And he was hanging out his window, and like we tried to get him to come with us, and he just wouldn't come. He was like, I got dogs, and we're like, we can bring your dogs with you. It's no problem. And he was like, I just can't. I have an open wound. I need to keep it dry. And we still tried to get him to come out.
I got an infection in my big toe, in my left foot now.
My right leg is amputated below the knee.
Okay, from the last flood?
From the last flood.
Okay.
But now, 10 years later, here comes another Hurricane Ida, and the water's coming in. All of a sudden, it's not just a little stream, it's a river.
There's a portion of Manville that is called the Lost Valley.
It's named for its isolation from the rest of the borough. The area is bound by the railroad tracks to the west and the Millstone River to the east, and there are only two ways in, a bridge and a single-lane tunnel.
The Millstone River doesn't have anywhere to go except up. And so it bursts its banks and comes up into that Lost Valley section.
It's a nice neighborhood. It's a very nice, quiet neighborhood here in the valley. And in that respect, I like it. In the respect of having to watch the hurricane season come every year, it's stressful.
I hear already the basement, shh, the water's coming in from the wall, shh,
It's coming up out of the ground, like a waterfall going up. Like a waterfall going up.
And then he comes in the back every 15 minutes. It's very, very, very fast that the water's going down, all the way down on the street, on the end.
We're heading east on Kyle Street towards the valley, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get into the valley whatsoever because the water is completely up to the bridge.
There was a guy who was trying to get to his daughter that lived over in the valley. Early in the morning, we couldn't make it over there. And we're finally able to get underneath the bridge. But I totally forgot, when you come underneath the bridge, it gets deeper. But when you come up the other side, it comes up on like a hump, and it got to like 2 foot of water. And I looked at Joe, and I was like, I wanted to go over to the valley, but I just didn't want to take a chance. The current was really starting to pull. The fire department was down below us. We got their attention. They came up. They actually had boat malfunction.
I'll take you over here where my trailer is.
You know where we were dropping people off at?
Yeah.
We got another boat over there. That's what we got to get back over to that.
I'm trying to get to that fire right now.
The problem is the water's so deep. If you look in front of that house, you can see a car with water up to its roof. That water's so deep, the firefighters cannot get to this building.
Our emergency response was quite good. Could have been better, but we didn't lose a life here in Manville.
this morning is the first time we'll be able to see anything because it's all been closed off. And we got here and, you know, these cars are flipped. There's at least 7 feet of water throughout the shop, so we're gonna try to rebuild what we can.
So it's a lot of cleanup. Probably figure out another week or two of cleanup, and I guess we're gonna hope for the best.
These people were going back to their houses, even if they were rescued or they stayed, they were going back to devastation. Nothing. They had absolutely nothing. They had to start from scratch.
Toys, memories, pictures, first dresses. We both cried for days. As we were bringing stuff up, we just cried. It was just heart-wrenching. The water was roughly about 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet on this first floor. So anything that was in that was destroyed. 85% of our life was downstairs and we lost all of it.
Proper on the side. We had a lot of people come here locally that wanted to help us. We had people who wanted to
outside
give our dirty clothes.
Yes.
And they would wash our clothes and
Yes.
fold them and
Helping.
bring them back.
Yeah, they help us.
Yeah.
Good community.
Yeah, a lot of people
A lot
came
of
here.
people came here and
Yeah,
offered
brought
help.
us water, food.
Water, food.
We got burgers down at Cooper Street if you need some. Cooper Street Park.
They gathered things for people. They sent out the football team. Like, the community of Manville really pulled together.
It makes us realize that how do you deal with trauma? Well, number one, you come together and you deal with the problem, right? You deal with all of the fallout that happens in that moment. But the second half of it is that you remember. And you have to remember what happened, why it happened, and how you got through it. The VFW is an absolute cornerstone of the borough of Manville. It's one of our emergency spaces. After Ida hit, it was our shelter, our emergency shelter for anyone who had been displaced. There were cots. They used their kitchen to make hot meals 3 times a day for everyone who was there.
The VFW is all about supporting the veterans, military personnel, and our communities. That's our prime 3 goals.
After the shelter aspect of the VFW had been completed, it became the food pantry to come either drop things off, or if you needed supplies, you just walked in, grabbed a plastic bag and started shopping. And it's entirely volunteer run. And where do they show up? They show up at the VFW because they know that's the place to show up with stuff.
We had so many volunteers come here who were looking to help us. They did everything from sort the donations that we were receiving to distributing them out to the field, going to people's houses, going up and down throughout the town. But it was that reaching out, not just from the people in town, but the people across the country. I had people in North Carolina, South Carolina, call or send stuff with a note saying, I used to live up in that area and I really like to help.
One of the things that kind of hit me, I came home one day and there was a box on my porch. And it was from North Dakota. And they said they felt our pain and that we weren't alone. And it was this little soap and bath shop out in North Dakota who sent us a package of soaps for our disaster relief center with a really kind note that said, you're not alone. We care about you. And that hit me, as you could tell.
If we just had FEMA assistance, there is no way we could have gotten by on that. There is no way.
There was really no help from the government, none whatsoever. I mean, I felt like the government let us down.
President Biden, the governor, and some of our New Jersey senators decided to come and assess the damage. This should not be a politically charged event, but as with anything else, it tends to be, it can be, and it was this time.
There was a lot of people, I'd say, were not Manville residents here that were, here to greet the president when he came.
Other people in surrounding towns had heard he was coming, and they used it as an opportunity to kind of protest, because it was not long before that where there was this whole debate about how the Biden administration had pulled out of Afghanistan.
We also felt like it was a big slap in the face. Biden coming here was for show, in my opinion. I feel like it was for show. I feel like Biden came here to say, hey, we're bringing attention to this little town that got demolished by this horrible flood. And that was it.
When President Biden visited Manville, I was a little nervous because, it's the President of the United States, and the security was really intense. We were in a convoy that went down to the Bosel Avenue area, Lost Valley, to have him view some of the devastation and one of the houses that exploded.
A water height that went up in some cases almost to the windows of these homes, literally over your head.
I was honored to represent my hometown and walk behind the president as he toured the area. I'd spoken with him briefly. I basically said, President Biden, I need a lot of help here, and we need a lot of federal funding to help this town, and he agreed with me. So they will all hear that message that we need more aid to get us through this period of time.
For decades, scientists have warned of extreme weather. Would be more extreme, and climate change was here, and we're living through it now. We don't have any more time.
Climate changing? No, it's not a climate changing. It's a building houses left and right.
And the effects of climate change that are causing these storms is here. And it's our job to make sure that we are all ready to respond as well as prepared.
Where's the water gonna go? It's not a climate change. Please.
It's coming.
Don't tell me that. Climate change. Building houses left and right. That's not a climate change.
We're here to prepare to protect. And if the residents do not feel that we have their backs, then we failed them.
We thought that maybe he'll see, maybe he'll push a little bit more. No, nothing.
And how many times are people going to come here from the federal government, from the state government, and leave empty promises on the table? We've kept on them to the point where, they send us to voicemail sometimes when we make calls. That's okay.
The only help that we actually got was from the community itself.
It was not heavily publicized, but we were able to get access to the VFW when Guy Fieri came to feed the veterans of Manville and also the veterans from other surrounding areas in New Jersey.
I grew up in Manville. I was here since I was 2 years old. And I remember going to school. This is leading up to the military, I guess, entrance. I was in 5th grade and reading in the Weekly Reader about the Vietnam War. And little did I know I was going to run smack right dab into it as I got out of high school. So it was inevitable that I was going into the draft and I was going to be drafted. So I decided, well, let's make the best of it, and I'll go into the Air Force and see if I can get into electronics. They drafted me to go to aircraft records, and I didn't want to go, but it says, okay. But it was the best thing that could have happened because I was in an air-conditioned office and spent my year over there working out of an office instead of sitting on a hot aircraft wing and burning my tush off.
Mr. Guy Fieri, welcome to Manville.
My dad's a vet. My dad served on submarines during Vietnam. So many family members have been in the military, and I am a huge patriot and a huge fan of our country. Freedom is not free. And if it wasn't for all of these amazing people in this room, and when I say amazing people, I don't mean just our veterans, I mean our families that support our veterans. Because without you, we wouldn't be the greatest country in the world. That's really the truth.
My name is Letty Austin. I currently serve as the state commander. I earned my eligibility in the VFW by serving in the Iraq War in 2004. They do a lot, most recently with the flood, how this post became a shelter. But then it shows that American pride, that we can't be broken as Americans, that spirit, at times we may get down, but when we come together as a people, it's just awesome. And just to have this here today, to be able to get veterans together in the same place, to come out, it's healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you being here. Very much. Manville appreciates it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
When I had the opportunity to come out and bring some of my teammates just to show, appreciation and gratitude and how much these men and women mean, it's the least I can do.
We try to go and help folks. We help during disasters. That's how it really got started, is cooking for people during disasters. But when there's not disasters, what we need to do is go back and reflect on all the people that have helped us during disasters, these wars, or then we're fighting our first responders. So that's what the foundation's about.
I think veterans are the most under-respected people in the world these days, and they deserve everything.
We have a general buried, General Frederick Frelinghuysen, who served under Washington. In that same cemetery, there's a Civil War veteran buried, Abraham Van Nest. He was Purple Heart.
Well, if you came here before the Revolution, let's say 1750, 1760, Manville, you would probably find the road was a little wider when it got to that place. There was nothing here. And it got to be like 1770 before there was a store there. And that was in the wide place of the road, and that was Manville.
This area was part of Hillsborough, which was a very large portion of Somerset County.
So this is a map of Hillsborough. And what you can see here, this edge here, this is now Manville.
With all the rivers and all the other stuff, a lot of people came through this area one way or another, either on a boat or on a road. So, it was a centralized location.
Manville is on the route of the most famous highway in America in those days, the Old York Road. The Old York Road ran from New York to Philadelphia. And if you wanted to go by stagecoach or anything, you came through here. During the Revolution, there were like 10,000 people in all of Somerset County. Big farms, spread out, few people.
During the Revolution, there were several encounters in this area. I know that George Washington was, living in this area as his headquarters for a while. This was where a lot of the action took place during the Revolutionary War.
The 2nd Middlebrook Encampment, where the Pennsylvania troops were here in Manville, encompassed 10 towns, and there was no place for them. You had to spread out your troops because they needed water, they needed wood. You couldn't bunch them up. The only place left was across the river. That was here. All your major generals were here. There's so much happened here. This is so much more important than Valley Forge, but it didn't have a sexy story. The Army, the American Army, came together here. They got their act together. General Greene, who lived in this house, got it all together, got the supplies. Von Steuben came up from Valley Forge. He trained people up in the hills here. While they were here, they got the French involved, which was a great thing for the American cause. They wrote an account of this area. They wrote an account of what Manville looked like. The 2 or 3 sentences we have come from a French account. And it said, it had 8 houses, and it was surrounded by fruit trees. It was all plowed fields. Now it's completely obscured. This town went to sleep after the Revolution and didn't awaken until 1912, when Johns Manville moved in.
Johns Manville was created by 2 separate guys, Mr. Johns and Mr. Manville. And they started the Johns Manville Company in what was then known as Hillsborough.
Well,
Of course, they made asbestos, and we were known as the Asbestos City. Most of my uncles, my sister-in-law, they died from cancer because of that. But what happened is before I went into service, I was out of school, and I worked for them for 2 months to what they called the wet section of Johns Manville. It was on the second floor. There was no dust there. But if I looked down at the floor below me, you couldn't tell anything. It looks like a snowstorm. You couldn't tell a machine from a guy. That's the way I remember it. There was just so much.
Asbestos is essentially, it's a rock. And this rock is where they extract the fibers that they used to use to make the asbestos products. And asbestos was in everything. It was in everything from pipes to fabrics to home insulation to brakes on cars. I mean, there was asbestos in basically everything for a long period of time. So it was a very, very lucrative business.
She's using Kentile vinyl asbestos tile. Easiest flooring to install, easiest flooring to care for. Save every way with Kentile vinyl asbestos tile.
They came from the coal mines in Pennsylvania, so this was better than being in a mine, I guess, to them. So they went to work here, and I guess they thought it was, okay, because nobody said it was bad for you. That was the big thing. We didn't find out till later that, you can get killed from it.
They were literally taking trains of workers, most of whom were immigrants from Poland, and they were training them into Manville to work at the Johns Manville factory, and then training them back out. And very quickly, those people decided, this would be a lot easier if we just lived here, and neighborhoods were born.
A plant like that moves in and they build a lot of quick homes, little ranches, little starter homes. So their workers have somewhere to live and they don't have to go far to get to work.
My dad, he worked in Johns Manville until he got laid off, and then he went back to being a laborer. Now my father was making $72 a week, which was big money back in the Depression days.
So at that point in 1929, the people that lived here and are surrounding around the plant broke the town away from Hillsborough and incorporated it as its own borough. So once 1929 hit, Manville was on its own, and that's how we became the town of like 10,000 at the time. It kept the plant, Johns Manville, employed about 7,000 people in its heyday. This whole area employed about 20,000 people with all the manufacturing jobs that have since left.
Manville Pizza, when Johns Manville was open and up and running, there was 3 shifts over there. Manville Pizza was open till 3 o'clock in the morning, okay? 90% of our income was meal tickets. And my dad would collect meal tickets from Johns Manville employees. Once a week, you'd go there and exchange those meal tickets in for cash. That's how intertwined that company was in this town. The town was built for the company. Now imagine having Silicon Valley in Manville, which was essentially the equivalent of having Johns Manville in your town, okay? There was 2 train stations here with 2 links to New York City. There was an airport, and there was plans for a bigger airport, and that footprint was gonna be expanded, and they were looking to land jets over here. So this really had, they were working on the town of the future over here.
Growing up near the plant, there were days where my mother had to sweep the porch of the white dust. And I also was told that kids would run around trying to catch the snowflakes.
I remember as a kid too that asbestos used to fly in the sky, and we thought it was snow, so we would catch it in our mouth and eat it. And that's just the way it was.
The only way we knew it wasn't snow because it wasn't melting. I mean, there would be piles of it all over the town. And we would walk through it not thinking anything of it because we didn't know what it was doing to us at that time.
Problem, it's a carcinogen, causes cancer. It's pretty bad. You can eat it, just don't breathe it.
My sister's mother-in-law passed. My sister's father-in-law passed. They both worked in Johns Manville. And they died specifically from mesothelioma.
We didn't know back then, just like most people didn't know the problems associated with cigarette smoking until much later, that it wasn't good for your health. So a lot of people suffered from mesothelioma and even got the disease who didn't work in the plant.
I can't tell you the number of guys that said, yeah, my mom died of asbestosis. It's like, well, did she work in the, no, she didn't work there. But she took my dad's clothes every day and washed them. And, you know, obviously the dust and all that stuff.
But what had happened is these asbestos gets into the lungs and it actually roots itself and grows up into the lungs. And people have a problem because they were starting to wheeze a little bit, but they never thought it was the asbestos until later on in years. I can remember my aunt working over there, and if you put your hand on her arm, you could feel the asbestos growing right through the flesh. It was like little needles coming up on both arms. And every time that she come to see us or the family, she would say, look at my arms, can you feel the asbestos? That's just growing. Now this is in lungs, you know, people never realized that this was growing in their lungs. Then later on, people were starting to drop like flies with this asbestos.
And he said, look at this, and he pulled up the side of his shirt. And there was a lump there like the size of a cantaloupe almost, under his ribs cage, and it was asbestos. And that's when I got an idea of just how serious it was.
There's this old timer who worked in Johns Manville that used to come in here. He passed away, I don't believe it was asbestos related, but even if it was, he was in his mid-80s. And he said, the only reason I'm still alive is because back then I was a chain smoker and I only breathed filtered air when he was working because he always had a cigarette in his mouth, right? I thought that was interesting. His wife died early from it because he would come home covered in the dust and she would shake out the clothes and get a puff of asbestos right in her face.
And it was terribly debilitating to people because this guy he'd been through World War II. He had done his bit. He worked in the factory for years. He was good. He was retired now. And next thing you know, whoop, he can't breathe. And there he is.
It's horrible. It's pitiful, but we didn't know. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's light as a feather. It doesn't burn, you know. The insulation qualities, it had everything that you'd possibly need.
All of these houses in Manville had asbestos in them. Every single one, I would say. So people didn't realize what it was doing to their health.
Their insulation in the attic was actually asbestos in bags that were tacked on to the ceiling. And so they were breathing that stuff for years, and it was all over the place.
So the plant was in operation until the late 80s, I believe, when the asbestos and mesothelioma concerns bankrupted the company.
Eventually, when they started to think about closing Johns Manville down because of what it was doing to our town, it was unreal, actually. People lost their jobs. I mean, Johns Manville hired a lot of people.
And I remember them taking the buildings down, and that was really, I was worried, like, what is behind inside the building when they're taking it down? Is that going to affect us? You know, is that going to affect the town? But it looked really eerie when the buildings came down and they had the fence around it. It almost looked like a concentration camp.
And when they finally left, it was like this town felt almost dead because a lot of the people were, in fact, had died.
Well, I think they sort of felt it was not the greatest town, but they had to survive, and that was their way of living with it.
It was a blight on our town that still to this day people remember and know.
I think that was, people knew Manville. Oh, where are you from? Manville. Oh, Johns Manville? You know, the asbestos capital of the world. So that was a bad stigma for us.
Johns Manville, asbestos. Yeah, okay. We had nothing to do with that. We, the people who lived here. It was the people who ran Johns Manville, you know, the upper echelon.
Yeah, it was a $1 billion company, you know, relatively speaking in today's money. Yeah, they changed everything. Manville always had work. Manville always had money. And there's a lot of children here. And they didn't come here just because. They came here because they made some serious cash when they came to Manville. The old timers always used to say, man, they used to say, if you were able to do business and if you're able to have staying power in the town of Manville years ago, you're guaranteed to be a millionaire.
I do think Main Street is dying, and we've lost so many businesses. But there's, a lot of these organizations that are closing. The big places kind of put the mom and pop stuff out.
Right now, because they got flooded, quite a few of the businesses are gone, and you can't blame them.
When you have the mom and pop businesses, it kind of brings heart to the town because there's so many corporations coming in and dictating how they want to do things.
Another site in town is the Rustic Mall site, and that's been basically vacant for over 20 years now. And there was no sign in sight that the developer was going to do anything with that property whatsoever. And to be held hostage like that for 20 years, it's not right to anybody in this town. I understand the developers' needs and their concerns, but it's been stalled for many years. And something has to be done there. That's the whole entire beginning hub of our Main Street being reborn.
There was an old creosote factory on that site that was cleaned up from the 1950s.
Creosote's it's used as a wood preservative. Telephone poles, railroad ties. It's still used today, but it's, now they realize that it's 100% carcinogenic and it's treated accordingly. Back then, they didn't know that. And what they had was in the back lot where Rustic Mall, the former site of Rustic Mall, they had unlined pits filled with creosote where they would dip their telephone poles and they would let the railroad ties soak. So now that came and gone, that American creosote moved on, developer bought it, built the Claremont section, built Rustic Mall, capped it, not good. Hurricane Floyd came, the water table elevated, brought all this creosote into the basements of the houses of Claremont section.
And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back when they saw the creosote. Then they just had to shut down that whole strip mall because they had to clean it up.
That's where we come into play. We were tenants of Rustic Mall. We had to move because of it.
So the cleanup was done by the federal government in the late 1990s, into the early 2000s, and it cost $330 million of federal tax dollars to clean the site. So the site is a 12-acre site that's clean to residential standards.
After it was cleaned out, it has been in holding, essentially. Nothing's been done with it. It's been a real sore spot for the people of Manville because they want more to be built there to help the economic vitality of their community. Unfortunately, nothing's happened yet.
It seems like right now, at this point in time, the property owner and redeveloper doesn't want to develop the property.
And a lot of people missed it because it was a nice little strip mall. It was convenient for everybody.
That used to be part of what attracted people into town. And then once people were in town, they'd say, hey, let's go get a burger. Hey, let's go get a pizza. They don't do that anymore because they don't shop in town. They shop over at Walmart, and they're not going to come around to the other side of town. Why would they do that? If they don't go to one of the stores that's in Walmart, then they leave.
Everything you would need for a town center, it had it. It was awesome. 3 banks in Rustic Mall, 3. Somerset Savings, NatWest, Manville National Bank. We barely have one. They just closed Bank of America. They're all pulling out.
When I grew up, there was a store open on every building. There was something open, craft shops and, mama, papa, little grocery stores. So everybody shopped local. Walmart is good and it's bad. When they came in, a lot of the places had to shut down. There was no way they could keep up with the, with different varieties that they have there.
Struggling community, everybody puts themselves together here. We're trying to make it here, and we've got economic challenges. The flood just wiped us out. We need help. We need people to pay attention to us down here. Okay, we have a lot of empty stores here, a lot of empty real estate here, and we need help. We need help from the people who are supposed to care. Okay, we're business people here trying to make it, pay our taxes. We want people to shop down here. We want people to be interested.
There are only 2 main roads in Manville. 13th Avenue, which runs north to south through the center of the town, and the main street, which is actually a county road.
Manville has what's called an at-grade crossing. An at-grade crossing is when the tracks and the road are at the same level that traverses east-west of one of our north-south roads. We only have 2 north-south roads in the first place.
The train companies that pass through there, they own that track and they own that line. So if they stop, if they overload their rail cars and they stop in the crossing and the train is just stuck there, the school kids can't cross, the cars can't go through, and sometimes it can be up to a half an hour that people are waiting. And it shuts down the entire town. The entire town's in gridlock. But other than that inconvenience, there's also the record train deaths that have occurred over Manville's 90-year history. And these are suicides, they're accidental deaths, and it's just part of having that train so present in the community that unfortunately those things do occur.
Trains are a double-edged sword. On one hand, they bring jobs, which is how the town was born in the first place. And on the other hand, they are dangerous, humongous, moving pieces of metal that don't stop on a dime. And when you live with the danger, it's a little bit like the monster takes its teeth out. At least you think so, until tragedy strikes. I think that part of the reason that we see a lot of train deaths is that because the train tracks live with us, the children walk over them twice a day, every day on their way to and from school. We drive over them 5 times a day. We walk our dogs over them. The other half is, I think, mental health issues and sadness, and I think that that's going to happen anywhere. but you combine mental health issues and sadness and tragedy with a danger that is so present and so near. It's sad, but that's the reality of the situation. You know, the opportunity is there, and unfortunately, it happens over and over.
Been here going on 3 years, and life in Manville is okay. It's all right. Yeah, I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey, so it's okay. The big difference from Plainfield, New Jersey to Manville, because everybody out here is kind of quiet. I don't walk out my house having a duck and dodge from bullets or anything like that. So the only crime was the damn flood. Hurricane Ida, that's it. That's it.
Ever since the floods have happened, we wanted to give back to the community, promoting local businesses and, you know, just bring that life back into town.
The objective primarily is the camaraderie and the charity, and help bring more money to the businesses on Main Street. We have chapters here in, of course, North America, South America. We are the chapter of Manville, so the Llama Manville is our title. There are about 7 chapters in New Jersey, and we usually support each other when we have these kind of events.
When we throw on our colors and we're out in town doing our bike nights or just riding through town, we're noticed. And people actually see us, and we'll go to Quick Check or something. Hey, when are you having your next bike night? We've been stopped at the gas station. I saw the license plate, Llama. I had a great time at your bike night. When is the next one? It makes us feel that much better when we do something like the bike night and car show we have at the VFW. We're giving back to the students because we know there's students out there that don't have anything. Families that don't have, you know, money to even buy their kids a backpack or whatever. So we're doing a drive. We're getting all kinds of school supplies to get that all together for these kids.
Every place you see a large lot, that's a house down.
Since 1999, we have removed over 160 homes from our floodplains. And we're going to continue that until we get people out of harm's way who don't want to live in these areas anymore. It's a sustainability issue. Flood insurance rates are through the roof for some of these homes that have multiple claims. And it just doesn't make sense to live there anymore.
You know, we participate in the Green and Blue Acres programs, which are federally funded grants and state funded, where the homeowner, after being flooded so many times, they could apply for these grants and get bought out. And at that point, the property itself, once the house is removed, is the borough's responsibility to upkeep.
I hate to see those houses get ripped down because an early part of our Manville history in this town, we lived in Lost Valley. We lived on Lincoln Avenue. And the neighborhood was idyllic. That neighborhood is awesome. You know, if they could raise those houses and the inconvenience of being flooded for a couple days wouldn't be life-shattering. It would just be waiting for the inundation to recede. And the houses would be raised and we would still have our ratables in this town, which we desperately need.
To sell every home in the valley and have us all get out isn't realistic, isn't practical. It'll just put the tax burden on the rest of the town. I really think that people should explore elevations to raise their homes. You cannot buy a home right now for the price you're going to sell your home at. There are grants available. Certainly it doesn't cover everything, but it's the answer, I think, if you want to stay here. I'm used to it. I still worry. I still get upset, but I'm safe up here. And I don't regret raising the house at all.
I've really looked down into the state of New Jersey, and that's the one fund since Governor Christie was governor that hasn't been funded, is that fund to help people raise their homes and get them out of harm's way. And I'm a big fan. If they want to stay, and you know, we have a few down in the Lost Valley now that are raised, and those folks during this past flood had no issues. They stayed in their homes. Their electric stayed on. They were stranded there, but at least they had their home. And a lot of our families now are still homeless. And I've been told by many people around in different meetings with FEMA and the state that they're taken care of. But my response was, a hotel does not mean you're taken care of. You're still out of your home and you're homeless.
It's been a whole year and we don't hear anything from FEMA, except in disaster hotels and stuff like that. They're willing to do that, but they will not respond to this.
There are a lot of people who live in the Lost Valley who want to stay, who don't want to leave. They love the area, they love the town. And I think that those folks should have the option to raise their homes, much like everybody on the shore does, and stay and be above what the floodwaters will inevitably come back for, but enable them to continue paying their property taxes, live in the area that they want to live in, send their kids to the schools, be friends with their neighbor, and have that combination of community and home.
I think those who've chosen not to be here probably don't have as much history here as the ones who have chosen to stay. You wouldn't do all this if you didn't love the area or the people you know over the years. We didn't want to be booted out of here, so we began to raise as part of that. And it seems to guarantee it, but it doesn't cut the cost down any. You know, I'm buying another house almost.
You know, everybody that comes here and lives here for a while knows it's like one big family, especially when an emergency occurs.
Only reason, like I told you before, that I'm here and we're doing it is because someone's kind enough to front us money that they know we have.
We can't continue to live like this. I want to live in a town where my flood sirens don't go off late at night so that people can have a sense of security while they're sleeping.
Because a lot of towns give up and go into ghost towns. They really do. But Manville's not going to do that.
I can't tell you the number of times people told us, don't move to Manville. Don't do it. Number one, it floods. Number two, the people are not that great. Number three, it's the lowbrow area. The old joke about Manville used to be that for every church, there was a bar, and then half the church is closed. And I think that we're a bit more classist than we tend to perhaps acknowledge to ourselves. So it very much still is a middle-class town. The work ethic, I think, is still here, but I think that Manville is still haunted by some of the not-so-nice cultural ideas behind a blue-collar town. And all of the rough edges that come with that stigma continue to haunt Manville to this day. My favorite town event is almost certainly Community Day. And it's just a day where we all get together, believe it or not, in the Lost Valley, and there are vendors and soccer games and a home run contest and a band that will play live music. The Girl Scouts will perform and everyone has a booth with stuff to do, and people just have hot dogs and sit on the beautiful grass and enjoy being in the sunshine and go throw rocks in the river. It's an unadulterated community moment to be together.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful day. And I'd just like to say, we are Manville stronger than ever before. A year after Ida, look at this community. We have a lot of volunteers here today, and I don't want to miss anybody, but I'm going to start with our first responders, our police, our fire, our OEM. Those guys are incredible. But I'd like to also give a shout out to all our vendors from our community here, our businesses that are here today, our Girl Scouts, our Boy Scouts. This is what makes Manville great.
The keys to a successful and thriving community are a clear vision cast from its leaders and an organized group of individuals who have bought into that vision, who who work for it every single day.
People may not get along politically or even, just personally, but when a catastrophic event hits in this town, you'd think every single resident was related to each other in this town because they take care of each other. You don't get that in larger towns. You'll never get that in a city. And, this small town feeling, as everybody knows, you get a little more sense of security in a small town.
Every one of us in the community must be a watchdog, okay? Especially there's kids here are growing up. And that is the future of the community of this Manville.
And I just can't tell you how many times we've all looked at each other and said, there's something special here. There's something special. But I think that what I've realized is that special doesn't just happen. Special happens when you cultivate it.
Togetherness is number one. To get along with your neighbors, that's number two.
The old stereotypes of Manville, that it's only a one-race town, it's not it anymore. I mean, you have so many diverse cultures that live within Manville.
The people, okay? Like, we are the cause and the effect. Like, if everybody could get on one track, we will do great.
I think that Manville is really a friendly town. We're normal, everyday, hardworking, blue-class people. We don't follow the leader and rush to the latest trend. We have good family values, and I think that's very important. And I think that's what we need to highlight for this town. That you can come visit us and we're not going to judge you. And we don't want you to judge us. We just want to be friends.
We're famous for bad things, for wrong things, for floods, for misery. I don't want, we don't want that. We need help for these people and for the people of Manville. And I really hope we get it.
Every new economic development and technological breakthrough that affects our society and culture brings with it new challenges and new problems. And as these changes take place, it impacts people's lives. And Manville is really no exception. Manville's history has shown how its people, and for that matter, much of small town America, can survive the growing pains of progress, the misfortune of tragedy, and the impacts of cultural change. Manville has had many ups and downs, for sure, and weathered many storms, some even literally. But its people and its small town philosophy have really defined its resilience.
The thing that makes America so great, in my mind, is that if Americans are truly honest with each other, they all believe pretty much the same thing. And I think a true community that's successful is one where people respect each other and where people are constantly looking to better themselves along the way.
Love of country, love of town, and love of your neighbor. What we've just seen in this community has been incredible.
I believe in God and the Bible, and I think values and morals are the heart of a community.
We concentrate too much on what's wrong instead of what's right. So we need to concentrate on what's right and let the rest of the county know exactly what's right for Manville. And come on down and visit us sometime.
It's just, it's laid back, it's quiet. I mean, you can see my future staying here. Flood ain't gonna scare me out of here.
I think that Manville can set an example that it doesn't matter what your political views are, it doesn't matter where you're from, what your religious views are, any of that, what your background is. If you care about the community in which you live and you want to have a successful life, it starts at the local level. It starts with your neighbors and your local town government to really put in the work to build the foundation of a thriving community and deal with whatever comes your way as a people, not as a group or a viewpoint or an ideology, nothing like that. But getting along as people through hard times and through difficult situations. And I think I think Manville is on its way to being that beacon of hope.
And I think that if Manville becomes a community that prides itself on taking those steps, I mean, who wouldn't want to live here?
I, Joseph M. DeVito III,
solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and to the government established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and in this state,
under
the authority of the people,
that I will faithfully, impartially,
and justly
perform
all the duties of the office of councilman according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
Congratulations, councilman. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.